So I put my stopwatch on because I know that I have about 15 minutes. So buckle up. I'll be talking about value creation, and I'll try to prove that through value creation, which I will try to bring to you as well, that you can actually ensure engagement. So if you, during these 15 minutes, are not engaged, it means that I didn't bring any value to you. This is a part of my basic keynotes, which is the patient is no longer patient. I brought that to about, I think, 17 different affiliates within Rush. So it's possible that some of you might have seen it. But let's see how it goes, and let's see if you recognize it. I've been working for 20 years in pharma, but also beyond pharma. About 4 or 5 years of those 20 years, I specifically worked on patient research. So I worked with pretty much all the big global pharma companies on patient research. So I kind of know a bit how it goes. And it actually brought me to writing this book, which is called Healthusiasm. And it's not a book that is particularly for pharma, but it actually brings pharma into the outside world as well as it brings the outside world into pharma. So it's really an interesting discovery. And even people from within pharma, like this global marketing and digital excellence manager from Merck, says that it's a mandatory reading for capability building. Just like Eric Janssen, the global VP Digital Health Solutions, says that it really helps to understand patient expectations better. And this will be very crucial, expectations. So why this book? What is in it? First thing that I write in there is that I don't like the word healthcare because it's too much an on and off situation. You're either in the system or you're out the system. While the actual reality is that people are health enthusiasts and that they are actually pretty much their entire life busy with trying to be healthy or even happy. I mean, we're very close to New Year now. Well, the first thing that you will be saying to your family and friends is, I hope you have a healthy and happy New Year. It's that important to us, and that's why we do it all the time. And the reason why we are more than ever occupied is because we have more means to actually impact it. I mean, there's several reasons for that, and I don't have the time to go into it. But we actually have more ways of impacting our own health. And that actually changed the whole way that the healthcare system is currently structured. Because physicians very often still believe that they are at the center of the healthcare, or of the health of a patient, I would say. Well, actually, because of the fact that people are more and more occupied with their own health, we kind of like see a sort of Copernican health revolution, where the patient actually puts himself in the middle and looks around him for solutions that actually can help him becoming better, becoming healthier, becoming happier. And the physician actually today is only one, a very respectable and very notable, but is still only one of the many solutions out there to manage his own health. That's why I always say that, there's this big debate between who's a consumer and who's a patient, and are they actually the same or not? Well, to me, they are actually exactly the same person, because sometimes as a person, you find yourself in a situation where you behave like a consumer, and sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you behave like a patient. And then we take typical decisions. We've always been looking at patients and consumers in that way. A patient takes typically medical decisions, and a consumer takes typically lifestyle decisions. But in these past few years, what we've seen is that more and more people actually take health decisions, like preventative decisions, or even well-being decisions that makes them feel healthy and happy. And so it's not only just a patient who's actually taking decisions that impact their health. No, even consumers, or even any person actually, takes several decisions that impact their health. Medical decisions, health decisions, well-being decisions, and lifestyle decisions. And this is becoming more and more important. I mean, these are the graphs of just simply the search terms on self-care. And you see that only in the last 2 years, it doubled. If you compare it with about 10 years ago, it quadrupled. So really, people are more than ever engaged with their health. I mean, it's not a question of how can we engage people with their health. They are engaged with their health today. The question is rather, how can we engage them with our products and our service? And that is entirely up to you, because people more than ever want to be engaged with their health. And if you want to really engage people, you have to do it through value creation. And I'll be briefly touching upon 2 ways to create value creation. Let me just briefly explain you something as follows. Why would people buy products? It's because it brings something to them, right? If at a certain point many products are similar, then you will see that companies will put on the market services to differentiate themselves, to actually be able to ask more money. And that will again create value, and people will engage with that. Going one step further, and that's where we are now actually, is that the biggest value that you can create for customers, for patients, for consumers, for people, is actually by putting forward experiences that are almost, you can say, personalized services that matter in a certain situation. It's been around for quite a long time, beyond pharma, about 90% already. In 2014, 90% of companies said that customer experience is the most important thing to create value. And if you ask health consumers or patients, that was in 2018, they say that customer experience is the top priority for any type of healthcare provider, amongst others as well, pharmaceutical companies. So it is really important to bring that value by creating the right experiences. Pretty obvious, right? Question is rather, how do you do this? How do you create this kind of experiences? And you have examples like Pfizer, who did a patient hackathon, which was not particularly on one specific disease type. It was all kinds of disease types, and they really wanted to understand the overall experience. It was a good example. And why is it good that you don't particularly have to look at one experience or one disease type? It's because of this. Customer experience is created by the needs of the customer, the patient in this case, and the expectations. Now, the needs are very particular to a certain situation. If you are a patient in hemophilia, if you are a patient with MS, you have particular needs. But your expectations are not particular. They're not related to your situation as a patient, because your expectations are something that you built, that you've learned across different industries. And sometimes companies say to me that it's hard to understand what the actual expectations are because they change so quickly. Well, actually, that's not really true. Because if you look in other industries, you better understand what people might expect from you and how you need to be actually complying or fulfilling those needs with the right experiences. And I've kind of in my book wrote like 12 different basic customer expectations that could lead to better experiences. And I could really talk about this for about an hour or two, but I will quickly touch upon it to really have you get a feel of what I mean by it. So the first one is going from informative to supportive. And so what you see is that people really want information. You all know that, the leaflets that you make, etc. We go online to have information. But what we see nowadays is that more and more these kind of devices come across, and these are smart speakers. They are not used to actually find information. They will give you an answer. They really bring something that is of value. So you don't really need to look up information. It's a lot more supportive. A second type of expectations that we see is from convenient to impactful. Telehealth is really convenient. It's now healthcare matches up to what we have in other industries as well. We can actually provide the same expectations. Beter Dichtbij is an example from Holland, where hospitals are through sort of WhatsApp kind of tool actually are in direct communication with physicians. This is very convenient and very broadly used. Impactful is more about VR, AR. How can we actually make sure that the services that we put out there actually are fulfilled by being impactful and create the best experiences? A third one is nearby. This is GSK, who actually used these kind of billboards to identify whether or not you have some sort of illness or whether you have fever. But we're evolving into more real time. So it's not just about being close to somebody or having it in the pocket. It's really about having the answers in real time. This is Sanofi, who made a chatbot together with Babylon, one of the famous chatbots in the UK, to actually make sure that people get a diagnosis faster, or at least are recommended to go see a physician faster. Personal to predictive. These are other expectations who are common, which are widely spread. This is an example particularly applied to healthcare as well, where in supermarkets in the States, you can now buy DNA tests that allow you to see whether your DNA actually matches with certain medication types. So we know that Alzheimer's disease or the medication for Alzheimer's disease are very dependent on what type of DNA you might have. And so in a supermarket, you can now buy these types of DNA analysis. Then you have iCarbon X, which basically creates a digital twin, which allows you to be predictive. Those things are coming. They exist. There's about 1 million people around the world that are using this. Participation. Oximeters never sold more. Why? Because it's now necessary. People want to have an idea whether their saturation of the oxygen in their blood is good. Sharing. Royal Doctors in Belgium is hugely popular. Why? For second opinions. People not only want to participate in their own health, they also want to share their dossiers to be able that they have the right information from the right person. Finally, popular to relevant. This is Sanofi with an headache relieving music playlist on Spotify. And then relevant is making sure that you tap into the community of people, not just the patient associations, but really the community of people. They did a quick fire challenge and really wanted to understand from patients themselves how they deal with their skin care issues. There's about 50,000 people that actually went in there and wanted to participate in that challenge. So there's about 12 different expectations that are really important. And if you look at a patient journey, the important thing there is not only to look at what are the needs across that journey, but what are the expectations that they might have along that journey, and really looking into improving that expectations. So engagement is created through value creations, by making the right experiences, by fitting and meeting the expectations of people. But it goes even further because we are moving now into the transformation economy. Transformation means you might go to a gym for a good service. You might want to do CrossFit because it's a nice experience, but a personal coach will be that much of a personal experience that you really feel transformed. That is the best example in my opinion, but you can see it happening all around us. Mercedes-Benz wants to make people healthier while driving their cars. They have a medical director in their board since about, I think, 10 to 15 years now, and their objective is very clear. We want to make people healthier when they're driving our car. And Black & Decker, for example, sells this already in Germany, which is a personal assistant, a physician, a pharmacist, a nutrition, and actually a dispenser of pills as well. You can video call with your own physician. It's like the ultimate smart speaker with a video cam in there as well. So all of these examples are really about creating transformations. And so how do you do this, creating this transformation? Because it is indeed another level of value creation, but how do you actually do this? Well, we talked about how you need to know the needs of your patients, how you need to know the expectations of the patients, like the 12 I quickly summarized up for you. But how do you get then to customer transformations? Well, you need to know about the aspirations of people. What makes them healthy and happy? We know today that people are more than ever occupied with their aspirations, in a sense that they want to become the best possible version of themselves. And we see companies pivoting to that as well, in a sense that they want to make marketing aspirational again. That's why you see a lot about sustainability, diversity, and health. And that is actually how marketing should be about. I mean, even in pharma, we're not only talking about efficacy, tolerability, or safety. We're not only talking about patient centricity or patient services, but we really should be focusing on how can we make people healthy and happy. And this is actually what my book was about, of course. And to give you some examples, a patient that, an epileptic patient, an epilepsy patient, like his aspiration might be, I want to feel safe, but because my disease is progressing, I know that my medication at a certain point is not enough. How can I feel safe? And how can I accept the fact that I cannot always feel safe? Those are typical aspirations of epilepsy patients. Another example is Crohn's disease. Those people, if they have flare-ups because of the stress, they cannot leave home. So their aspirations is trying to prevent pressure pressure, stress, for example? How can they maintain meaningful connections even if they are sick or at risk? And how can they just be in a moment? Those people are having difficulties to travel. So how can you make sure that they actually have that aspiration or can actually aspire to travel, for example? And this is a wonderful example from Roche itself. They help diabetic patients to optimize their energy and to assure a proper protection. This is really fitting into the aspiration of people. So value creation is about experiences, it's about transformations. Because the patient, he is no longer patient. As we saw before, he is really healthusiastic. Because he's not only taking medical or health decisions, he's also taking well-being and lifestyle decisions. People, whether or not they are sick, they are more than ever occupied with their health. So they are engaged. And if you really want to engage with them, you need to be creating value. Value you create by focusing on experiences and transformations. And if you combine those things with everything I just said, here's the miracle, this is where the wonder is happening. These are the decisions that people take related to their health. This is how you increasingly create value for them. And this is what you need to know to actually be able to provide that value. So you first need to know the customer needs, which very often pharmaceutical companies know how to do. They know it really well. But they better need to understand what are the expectations that they have in other industries that actually are needed as well here. And what are their life aspirations? How can we make sure that when we talk to a certain patient, for example, an epileptic patient, that we always talk with this assurance, that we help him accepting his disease and that we make him focus on being safe. That is pretty much what I wanted to bring to you. Pharma is mainly focused on products and services in the medical sphere. The question is, where do you want to go with your particular disease area and your particular products? What you want to bring, how you want to create value to your patients so that they actually be engaged with your product and engaged with their own diseases. I guess that is pretty much it, what I needed to bring. And I surpassed it by 2 minutes.